The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Alistair, a 44-year-old architect in Seattle, had always prided myself on my ability to design structures that were both beautiful and strong, foundations that could withstand any pressure. Little did I know, the foundation of my own life was about to crumble. It had started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bronte, my wife of 15 years, a vibrant and passionate artist, had begun to withdraw. Late nights at her studio became more frequent, her explanations vague and hurried. Our conversations, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, dwindled to polite exchanges about the weather and the mundane details of daily life. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the pressures of her upcoming exhibition. Bronte had always been intensely focused when preparing for a show, pouring her heart and soul into her work. But there was a distance in her eyes, a coolness in her touch, that I couldn't ignore. One evening, while Bronte was supposedly at a gallery opening, I decided to surprise her with dinner at her studio. I picked up her favorite Thai takeout, a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, and drove across town, anticipation bubbling in my chest. The studio was in a converted warehouse district, a maze of dimly lit corridors and echoing spaces. As I approached her unit, I could hear voices, muffled but distinct. I paused, a knot forming in my stomach. Surely she wasn't alone. I pushed the door open, the aroma of oil paints and jasmine momentarily masking the scene that unfolded before me. Bronte was there, all right, but not with her art dealer or fellow artists. She was locked in an embrace with a man I'd never seen before, his hands caressing her back, her lips pressed against his. The takeout containers slipped from my grasp, splattering onto the floor with a sickening thud. The sound startled them apart. Bronte's face drained of color, her eyes widening in horror. The man, tall and muscular with a sneering expression, stepped forward, his posture aggressive. "What the hell is going on here?" I managed to stammer, my voice barely a whisper. "Alistair, it's not what you think," Bronte pleaded, her voice trembling. But it was exactly what I thought. The image seared itself into my memory, a betrayal so profound it felt like a physical blow. The man, whose name I later learned was Caius, was a sculptor who had recently joined Bronte's art collective. He smirked at me, a look of arrogant triumph on his face. "Bronte and I have a connection, something you clearly can't provide," he said, his words dripping with condescension. I wanted to punch him, to wipe that smug look off his face, but I was frozen, paralyzed by shock and disbelief. "Get out," I finally managed to say, my voice shaking with rage. "Get out of my sight." Caius shrugged, grabbed his jacket, and sauntered past me, brushing against my shoulder with deliberate insolence. Bronte stood there, her eyes filled with tears, her body trembling. "Alistair, please let me explain," she begged, but I couldn't bear to look at her, to hear her lies. "There's nothing to explain," I said, my voice flat and cold. "It's over." I turned and walked out, leaving her standing there amidst the wreckage of our shattered life. The rain was coming down harder now, washing away the remnants of the takeout, but it couldn't wash away the pain that consumed me. I drove home in a daze, the image of Bronte and Caius seared into my mind. I spent the night pacing, unable to sleep, replaying the scene over and over again. How could she do this to me, to us? Had our marriage been a lie? Had I been so blind, so naive? The next morning, Bronte was waiting for me when I came downstairs, her face pale and drawn. "Alistair, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I don't know what came over me." "A moment of weakness," I repeated, my voice laced with sarcasm. "You were practically devouring him, Bronte. That didn't look like a moment of weakness to me." I know," she sobbed. "But it doesn't mean anything. I love you, Alistair. I've always loved you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "You wouldn't have betrayed me in the most hurtful way possible." "I promise it will never happen again," she pleaded. "Please give me another chance." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the woman I had loved and cherished for 15 years, but a stranger, a liar, a cheat. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. "I can't, Bronte," I said, my voice firm. "I can't forgive you. I can't forget what I saw. It's over." I walked out, leaving her weeping in the hallway. I went to a lawyer, filed for divorce, and started the process of dismantling our life together. The next few months were a blur of legal paperwork, financial settlements, and emotional turmoil. I moved out of our house, the house we had built together, the house filled with memories, both good and bad. I found a small apartment downtown, a stark, minimalist space that reflected my own empty state. I threw myself into my work, designing buildings that were cold and functional, devoid of the warmth and emotion that had once characterized my designs. I avoided social gatherings, isolating myself from friends and family. The pain was constant, a dull ache in my chest that never seemed to go away. I couldn't understand why Braun had done this to me. We had a good life, a comfortable home, a loving relationship. What was missing? What had I done wrong? I confided in my friend Cuthbert, a psychologist who had always been a good listener. "Alistair, you can't blame yourself," Cuthbert said. "Sometimes people cheat because of their own insecurities, their own unresolved issues. It's not always about you." "But what if I wasn't good enough?" I asked. "What if I failed her in some way?" "You can't control someone else's actions," Cuthbert said. "You can only control your own response. Focus on healing, on moving forward. Don't let Bronte's betrayal define you." His words were helpful, but they didn't erase the pain. I still struggled with feelings of anger, resentment, and self-doubt. One day I received a call from a mutual friend, Beatrix. "Alistair, have you heard about Bronte?" she asked, her voice hesitant. "No, what is it?" I replied, my heart sinking. "She's pregnant," Beatrix said, "and everyone's saying Caius is the father." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only had Bronte cheated on me, but she was carrying another man's child. The betrayal was complete, absolute. I felt a surge of rage, a burning desire for revenge. I wanted to expose Bronte and Caius, to ruin their lives, to make them suffer the way they had made me suffer. But then I realized that revenge wouldn't bring me happiness. It wouldn't erase the pain or undo the past. It would only consume me, turning me into someone I didn't want to be. Instead, I decided to focus on myself, on rebuilding my life, on finding happiness again. I started therapy, working through my emotions with a skilled therapist who helped me understand my patterns and beliefs. I reconnected with old friends, rediscovering the joy of companionship and laughter. I took up new hobbies, learning to play the guitar and taking photography classes. I traveled, exploring new cities and cultures, immersing myself in new experiences. Slowly, gradually, the pain began to subside. The memories of Bronte's betrayal still lingered, but they no longer had the same power to wound me. I started to see myself as a survivor, not a victim. I realized that I was stronger than I thought, more resilient than I knew. One evening, while attending a gallery opening, I met a woman named Winona. She was a sculptor, her work bold and innovative, her spirit vibrant and free. We struck up a conversation, talking about art, life, and everything in between. I found myself drawn to her intelligence, her humor, and her genuine warmth. We started dating, exploring Seattle together, discovering new restaurants and attending concerts. Winona was different from Bronte in every way. She was honest, direct, and fiercely independent. She didn't need me to complete her, but she wanted me in her life. I fell in love with her, slowly and cautiously, allowing myself to trust again. 1 year later, Winona and I were married in a small ceremony overlooking the Puget Sound. It was a beautiful day, filled with love, laughter, and hope. As I looked at Winona standing beside me, radiant and happy, I knew that I had made the right choice. I had moved on, I had healed, and I had found love again. Bronte's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it had also been a catalyst for growth and change. It had taught me the importance of self-love, resilience, and forgiveness. It had shown me that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. A few years later, I received a letter from Bronte. She wrote that she and Caius had broken up, that she was struggling to raise their child alone, and that she regretted her actions. She asked for my forgiveness, not for her sake, but for her child's. I thought about it for a long time. I had already forgiven Bronte in my heart, but I had never told her. I decided to write her back, offering my forgiveness and wishing her well. It was a small gesture, but it brought me a sense of closure. I had finally let go of the past, and I was free to embrace the present and the future. Looking back on my life, I realized that Bronte's betrayal had been a turning point. It had forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, to redefine my values, and to create a life that was authentic and meaningful. I was grateful for the lessons I had learned, the strength I had gained, and the love I had found. I was Alistair, the architect who had rebuilt his life, brick by brick, into something even stronger and more beautiful than before.